just opened up to how dare you.
I know. How dare you, universe? How dare you? Right? I'm just a mirror. I'm just a reflection. But, I mean, that's the capacity thing, right? That's like that goes back to like, how do, like you said, you know, I got all this stuff, right? You're leasing it, right? Right? It's like, it's been, you know, I don't want to get too far down the sort of, you know, how do I create abundance route, right? Because there's other programs that can do that. But like, for me, it's like when I look in, okay, let's just go into the topic tonight, fuck it. I'll answer your question as best I can through that, or we can talk after. But I want to get into the topic and start to talk about that. So the statement, right, the state you're meant to get into this week is, love is my creation, right? And so, you know, I'll take a minute to let that kind of ooze in, and you can repeat it a few times and see what it starts to resonate in you. But love is my creation. And the first reason I say that, right, is because what are we here? Looking for love, right? Looking for love. Love is out there, right? You'll find the one you love, right? And all of this is about, right, like, something out there is love, right? Something out there is love. I need to go find it. I need the right set of circumstances to create love, right? And that if I can get the right things in place, that will create love. And what I'm saying is like, no, stop. Don't do it anymore, right? Love is my creation. What I'm creating in the world is love. What I'm creating in my words, in my actions, is love. Every single time. And what happens is that we get these very distorted versions of love. And I think we've seen that, right? I think we see that everywhere. I think we see that in many relationships, is that, like, with my parents, love was suffering, right? Love was putting up with another person that was doing things that were harmful to the family and not calling them out on it and taking action, but constantly covering for them and trying to insulate and enable, right? And that's what I learned love was. That's what I thought it was. That's what I got from the universe when I started to try and fall in love, right? Now I stand in love. And it's because, and not for nothing, babe, like I love you to the death, and I would be completely broken without you. But like, even without her, and this is a hard statement to make, it's really tough, but like, I would, and you too, right? But even without her, like, I would still keep loving, right? My love is not dependent on her. My love is completely independent of her. And that's true for everything. My love is completely independent of my possessions, right? My love is completely independent of where I am, right? My love is completely independent, this is a tough one, of how much I can deadlift. That's a tough one, right? No, but trust me, this took me a lot of work, but like, my love is completely independent of this body, right? That's a hard one.
Is it directed anywhere? Either towards yourself?
What do you mean?
Your love. Is it directed to anywhere, anybody, anything?
Anything.
Back at you?
Everything.
Or what is it directed at?
So I always start with, right? I always start with love. Whether you're my enemy, whether you're my friend, whether you're Donald J. Trump, right? I love Trump because he is showing people a side of things that is making them finally stand firm in their beliefs and their values. And I love him because he's a bad example, right? And I love my dad because he's a bad example, right? But they shouldn't watch this. I'll never post this again because my mom will watch every video. Right? But it's like, so I start with love. That doesn't mean that I'm like, hey, come live in my house, right? Or like, hey, you're a crack addict, like, here's more money, right? Go throw it away. Like, I still have boundaries, but I always operate from that love space.
Is that like agape?
Yeah. Like there's so many terms throughout history that you could relate this to, right? But it's Jesus's love, right? Jesus had that sense of love. Like, I'll carry your bags a mile, I'll carry them 2 miles, right? Just to prove to you that I don't give a shit, right? You can hate me, I will still love you. I may not tolerate you, right? I may not give you free reign. I may put up very clear boundaries, but always I will love you because I don't see separation. I don't see separation anymore. There's too many things that have happened in my life. There's too many mysterious circumstances that go unexplained for me to even think that what you are is separate from what I am. So whenever the universe gives me something, I don't know if it's mine. I don't know whose it is. I just appreciate it. I just enjoy it.
What's the difference between this love you're talking about and acceptance?
So acceptance is something you do with conditions, right? When you accept something, there's some condition in your life that you're not okay with, and then you have to accept it.
I mean, you know how they say take things as they come?
Sure.
Rather than put them on a scale of bad to good.
Sure.
So that is, in a way, unconditional acceptance, just taking things the way they are.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit neutral in emotion to me. But like
Right.
letting things in,
Yeah.
being neutral to them. Love sounds like very positive side of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only do I love it, I appreciate it, right? I cultivate it, I welcome it in, right? All of it. All of it. I am neutral in the sense that whatever I'm given, I know that that's exactly what I need to grow and develop and expand as a person, right? And I know whatever we're given is exactly what we need to grow and develop and expand as a group. And I know whatever this world needs is exactly what's needed. So I hold space for it all. That doesn't mean that I'm not like, that fucking sucks, right? Because there's a lot of shitty stuff that happens in life, right? But I'm never gonna let that stop me from loving. I'm never gonna let it, I don't give a shit, right? I am never gonna let that stop me from loving. And trust me, I've stopped before, right? We've all been there. We've all been in those situations where we're like, enough's enough. Fuck it. I hate this, right? I hate it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's exactly what's required. But if you can, and this is gonna sound weird, it's not gonna make sense to your brain, right? But I know it'll make sense to you. I know it'll make sense to the part of you that I'm trying to speak to. And I know you've already had this experience, but I can love something and hate it at the exact same time, right? And those don't have to be separate things. I can come from a place of love and absolutely hate something, right? And it can make me so uncomfortable. It can make me so sick to my stomach, but I can still love that thing because I know it is transforming me in a way that nothing else could. Because nothing will transform you more than the worst feelings you possibly can have in life. Nothing will give you more perspective on life than suffering. I don't know why. I don't know why it's that way, but it is. And we all know it, right? And nothing will give you more perspective on life than joy, than your baby, nephew, niece being born, right? That's just the way it is. But the more we can look at those things and be in love with them as experiences, right? And be in love with them as transformative states, and be in love with the mundane, right? We all got to go to work tomorrow, most of us, right? But even being in love with that mundanity, right? And that day-to-day just grind of things, right? Can we get ourselves to that state? Or, right, misery loves company, right? Misery loves company. Do we go into the, woe is me, pity party, I'm the victim, they deserve blame, come, fall into my spider web of negative emotion and get down in there and let's just all suck each other dry, right? Because it's easy to do that as well, right? Is that making things better? Absolutely not. It's not. And that's why so many people are on antidepressants and drugs and alcohol and everything. Not that there's anything wrong with those things. Like, by all means, like, if you're gonna party, party. If you need to shift your state like that, shift your state like that. But when that becomes who you are, that's a tragedy. Because who you are is completely different than that. And who you are is really that love state that's beneath it all, right? And that thing has been, right, we talk about authenticity, we talk about, evolving ourselves, being vulnerable. Underneath all of that is love, right? There's no such thing as unconditional love, right? Love is unconditional. It's a self-evident truth, right? You're saying love, right? Love is unconditional. It should never have conditions on it. And if you have children, love is unconditional, right? But they're also annoying little brats that are entitled and need to be shown that, like, hey, what you see on TV is not how you treat people, blah, 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 right? And you have to set standards for them, and you have to create, behaviors for them, patterns for them that are healthy, that are well adjusted. But you will never stop loving those kids, right? You just can't. That's what love is, right? There's love, and then there's behavior. Then there's expectation, right? All those things get wrapped up into this. But what you need to create within you is that love. Nobody's gonna give you love. Nobody's gonna, like, the universe is, if the universe aligns for you to feel love, right? Then you're totally dependent on that, right? And as soon as that goes away, love goes away, right? Or so we think, right? That's the mind's little trick of keeping you in that ego state, identity, is that, like, you need to align these things a certain way to get love, right? Because lo and behold, if you actually knew that love came from within, and you actually knew that the only thing that is dependent on you having a fulfilling, loving life is you adjusting to that vibration of constantly cultivating it, independent of whatever is going on outside of you, then the ego dies. It's gone. What does it have to do anymore? It has to pick out colors. That's what's left for it to do. It's like, oh, what color shirt do I want to wear today? Now the ego is like, okay, I guess, I don't know, we'll wear a blue one. And you're like, all right, cool. Good job, ego. Way to go, man. Right? But it's relegated to, like, that level of decision making. It's no longer like, do I want to have kids or do I not want to have kids? Like, have I been a failure in life because I'm this age and, like, I haven't gotten to these things and all my friends have these things and, like, I don't even blah, 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 right? Those decisions are no longer for it. The decision is like, what kind of Oreos do I want to eat, right? Like, that's the decision that it's relegated to, is making, like, relevant decisions to an ego, which is like this or that, right? Like, make this decision. But you are not in charge of the big things anymore. What's running those big things is something much, much deeper, is much more intrinsic and closer to my soul, right? And there's no words for that. That's why we have to get out of our minds, right? Is because the words for that are non-existent. The conditions for that are non-existent because it's love. It's unconditional. As soon as I put conditions on it, it's not love anymore. It's me getting what I want. It's satisfying my ego and my identity such that I feel placated so that I won't have any emotions. And that's not a steady state, right? That is going to constantly be changing and constantly be jumping around because the conditions are always changing. What you wanted a week ago is not what you want now. What you wanted 5 years ago is not what you want now. The conditions will always be changing, right? So why don't you just love? Why don't you just have that as the basis of your existence, and then everything can arise from there? Because then you'd be empowered. Then you wouldn't need, all these things that we're taught that we need. Then you're free. Right? I love that my name has the word free in it. Right? There was a reason for that. Right? There was a reason for that. It was literally in the title. Right? They knew.
Is that ego talking?
Whose?
Ego.
Whose?
Yours.
Whose ego? I don't even know that guy.
What kind of Oreo do you want?
Like double stuff, probably? You ever had the waffle ones?
What?
Those are the bomb.
Waffle, they're like limited.
Sorry, we're talking about Oreos here. This is getting a little off topic. Yeah. That's what your ego should be doing, is figuring out like the best type of Oreo, right? Like that's where it's useful, right? That's where it's what color shirt do I want to wear today, right? What color car do I want to drive? Like that's where the ego can come into play, like your identity, your expression of yourself. Like that's a great place for the ego to operate. But making life decisions and it's not just making them, it's constantly hammering in on them and how important they are to your identity and how it can't sleep, right? Literally, like we can't go to sleep until we figure this out. Okay, here's the solution. No, that's not gonna work, right? And then you're like back on that track. And that's where, but like if you can take what you've learned in this program, if you can integrate what you've learned in this program to get to the point where, right, you realize and not just realize, but I want you to really experience it in your lives where it's like, I can run things from a different state, right? I can run things from a different dimension of my personality, which is not my ego, which is not my identity, which is not my thought patterns and my will, right? But which is this vibrational, energetic experience of creating, cultivating this alignment and this authenticity that's going to show up in the moment to give me the right pathway. And there's a lot to dissolve to get there, which is the work we've been doing. But use this week, right? Use this love is my creation. See if you can get into that state in your day-to-day basis, right? See if you can find what in your life is preventing you from loving it unconditionally. Right? Really think about that. Really put that question to your ego to see what it tells you. Questions? Concerns?
Do you believe this all of the time?
What do you mean?
All of these things. I don't remember it yet. Stuff you said earlier.
Yeah.
But like about everything, right? It's all
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's like very easy for me to believe that if I'm feeling good.
Absolutely.
If I'm depressed, it just sounds like so much bullshit.
Right. Yep.
I personally was for Jeff Lee because it's a pretty unhappy situation, so yes, he does.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't necessarily the situation.
It's your state.
Right.
And that's so going back to that, it's right, like it's more of a question of how do I maintain this state?
Yes.
Right. And it's taken a long time. And no, I don't maintain this state all the time. Right? But I used to maintain it 5% of the time. I used to maintain it 1% of the time when I first started. Right? Because this was all being introduced to me. I was like, wait, what is this? Like what? Like this is what you believe? Like that's crazy, but in a weird way, it's speaking to a part of me that like, I've kind of had those similar experiences. Like that's kind of weird. And so then I would sit, right? And then I would breathe. And then I would say these little statements, right? And then I would be like, oh, that kind of worked. Like that kind of actually worked this time. And then I was like, okay, I got a little bit more confident with it and a little bit more confident with it. And then I continued to have experiences. And then those experiences continued to reaffirm it. Right? And it kind of just started to become this feedback loop till it became a point where it's like, no, this is my existence now. This is how I carry myself. This is how I create. This is how I am internally structured now. I'm no longer internally structured at all the same way I was 5 years ago. Right? Completely different internal alignment. Right? Completely different use of my thoughts and my ego now, because it's just I've given up. I'm done. It fucked my life up for a long time trying to manage all this stuff, and letting go was the greatest decision I ever made. Being forced to let go, right, because of the pain and the suffering and the depression and the heartache and the just like, why is life like this, right? That's what brought me to my knees. And I was able to let go, right? I was able to say, is there another way, right? And then practicing this stuff gave me that way. And it was like, oh wow, like the more and more I practice, the better I get at it. And the better I, yeah.
That's what he was saying. You know, you lost everything. You lost a love of your life. You
Yeah.
lost, I mean, you were, like you said, you were brought to your knees.
Yeah, yeah.
You went, well, of course now nothing else
Right.
is taken away, so.
Right. And I mean,
get
you know,
everything out, right?
and that,
Now you're like fulfilled again.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a very full life with your
Right.
family, you know,
right.
but.
Which
now-
doesn't mean I don't
now
feel.
it's different. Now
Right? It
it's
doesn't mean I
different.
don't have feelings. Like, I have the best feelings, right? Huge feelings, great feelings, wonderful, the best, right? But now my feelings, my relationship to my feelings is so much different, right? And that's literally what I've been telling you for the past 8 weeks, right? Like, if you could sum up anything that I've told you, it's like my relationship to my feelings is very different than what the normal person experiences anymore. But it's the practice, it's the way I've gotten there was through, you know, cultivating these sort of inner, I guess like inner structures, right? That weren't there before. Like I put those together. And like, this is the program to do that, right? It takes 10 weeks to even get a glimpse into it, right? The first week you do your breathing, you do your meditation, right? Like you get a little taste of it, right? Now we're on week 9, right? You've had little moments, little glimmers of seeing it in action. You should carry this with you the rest of your life, right? You can do this again, right? In January. and granted, like, this isn't something I just did for 10 weeks and it like all clicked, right? This is something I've been working on for years and years and years. So I'm trying to get you hooked, right? I'm trying to get you to do this and be like, oh wow, this kind of changed some things. Like, I want to do it again. I want to keep on meditating, right? That's what this was all about. That's how I got all of you in here, was like, hey, do you want to meditate? Come on Sunday nights and check out what we're doing. And I'm hoping after this is done, you're like, I want to keep on meditating. That was what all of you had a problem. I started a program, but I could never stick with it, right? I started to get into it, but then I got busy with life and work and I gave it up, right? I got a cold and I stopped. Really? A fucking cold stopped you? You're a grown-ass woman. Get your shit together.
Are you speaking to somebody in particular?
No, I'm just kidding. There's probably somebody that's gonna watch this video and be like, God damn, how did he know? But that's you have to keep on going with this. So, it's creating these states within you, right? And it's this first pass at that, all right? And you've probably gotten it pretty better, we'll say, all right? But there's still, you have a lifetime to work on this now. And we still have another week. The next week is amazing. Next week is so good.
Is it the last week?
Yeah,
Last session?
last session. And then we're gonna have a party later on. I talked about that at the beginning. But work this week, right? Again, going back to, we'll sit soon. We're almost out of time. But working this week on, right? Am I creating love, right? And nobody else is going to create love for you. And nobody, like Amazon, I haven't found it yet, right? There's no just love. $70,000 million Prime. Send that to me, right? You can't buy love. That's what they tell you, but you can make it.
Lies.
You can't buy love, but you can make it. And that's my message for this week. But you have to create it. It has to come from within you. It absolutely has to. And you have to ask yourself, why am I not making love? Why am I not making love right now? Why am I not?
Now that the kids are in the garage, it's definitely a lot easier.
And with that, we will meditate. So,
Let's go to Gryffindor.
any questions? Anything? No? All right.